Due to overwhelming requests for a sequel, today on Daily Dose of Reddit, I, your host, Zach, will be reading from r/FatPeopleStories. And before y'all flippity-doodah start flippity-doodahing out about the fact that this might be fat-shaming, it isn't. At least for the most part. This is about people who are fat whose entitlement stems from them being fat. Or not necessarily from being fat, but fatness is involved in their entitlement. Alright, this story's called Moon Claims to Be Able to Fit into an Airline Seat. Both me and flight attendant say no. I get squished on a 14-hour flight. I get up close and rather too personal with a ham and got to know them very well after 14 hours of pressurized metal tube in the sky, much to my dismay. Yep, flying. I love flying. Probably because I'm just a huge engineering nerd, but one of my favorite things to do is plane watch, especially at larger airports. I love being on planes because it's the one time I can put in headphones and most people won't bother me at all. However, this may be one of my worst experiences in flying to date. Even worse than the time Delta lost all our luggage and sent it to London. Anywho, let's meet our cast. Here's the plane. A beautiful Air Canada 787-900 or 789, 3x3x3 seating, A, B, C, D, E, G, H, J, K, from window to window in standard Y-class configuration. Lovely body lines, swept wings, large electrically dimming windows, and subtle mood lighting. The spreader of chemtrails, pinnacle of Boeing's modern engineering team, Jack of the skies, making a royal flush of the Airbus 380 King, the Boeing 747 Queen, and the Airbus 350 Ace, as well as the Boeing 737 MAX, which is the Joker and doesn't serve a purpose. A true 5 out of 7 perfect score. That's a deep cut. And there's me, Peachin. 15, male, love flying, cars, and aisle seats. Red-blooded Chinese American, ridiculously incompetent at sleeping on public transportation. The sad victim of this story. 5'6", 150 pounds, BMI somewhere in the high 24s, former ham, I was 165 a year ago, and 3 inches shorter, but on a diet. Seat D, which is as far as I'm concerned, usually the best seat on any 3x3 aircraft, especially the 789. What a nerd. Canadian bacon? Age unknown, female, loves eating, drinking, and overall carbohydrate intake. Canadian, smells like Newports and stale grease. Future is female shirt and purple hair. Seat E, much to the dismay of myself and the lovely lady in seat G. She was also 15 and kinda hot, but that's not the point. Caused much pain and suffering during 14 hours. 5'2", weight unknown, BMI higher than Snoop Dogg. Seat G, 15, female, American, lives in Chicago. Met her while in line at the back of the plane waiting for the restroom to open up. Rather good looking. My family, my lovely parents and my 6-year-old brother, trained medical professionals and a useless child. Seats A, B, and C. Flight attendant. The mediator, also the purveyor of various snacks and drinks. Perpetually neutral, but incredibly helpful. Always asking if we would like drinks, thankfully. Anyways, let's begin our story, shall we? Friday morning, Toronto Pearson International Airport, YYZ, gate F78. The plane is pre-flighting and fueling up for a long run to Shanghai Pudong PVG. I'm consuming overpriced airport snacks and watching the Grand Tour, good show. Having just taken an early morning flight from Cleveland. First time in Canada, and I must say, I am impressed. Much maple syrup is observed, as well as one particular Canadian bacon. Boarding group is called. Fortunately, we get priority boarding because brother is small boy in a Mazda Miata, hoping for my seatmate to be decent. There's been an earthquake! Everyone, locate the exit nearest to them while making note it may be behind. Oh, wait. No, it's just Canadian bacon lumbering down the left-hand aisle staring at her ticket looking for her seat. Still praying it's not seat E in my row. Please, please, please. I get up, slightly annoyed that Jeremy Clarkson was being interrupted, but alas, it is the reality of public transportation. Canadian Bacon stores her luggage in the overhead bin, entrusting the plane to keep it safe for her. She grabs a tacky faux leather purse thing and slides her way. Well, that's awkward. Her ass cheeks are brushing up against my TV screen. No matter, I always have alcohol pads in my backpack. My father stares at me, bewildered. I shoot a worried glance and silently mouth, "Jeputing tatai dala," which translates to, "This won't work, she's too big," all while desperately hoping she would at least fit within the 18 inches of seat width provided by the caretakers of the plane. Evidently not. I sit back down, resume to Jeremy Clarkson making fun of James May being slow, and sit down on a pillow? Yes, there is a pillow, but next to it. That's not a pillow. No, much more awkward. It's Canadian Bacon's left-hand love handle, although at this point it may be an entire door as far as my seat space is concerned. 18 inches of the plane that were allocated to me, gone! Reduced to atoms, now slightly less than that. It's okay. My waist has gotten smaller. I can do this. I can do this. I can do this? I can't. I get out and sit down halfway before starting to close her love doors that were opening onto my seat. Sorry, I say, appropriating Canadian culture. Making up some BS about dropping something and needing to find my seatbelt. Seat G walks down the right-hand aisle and we make eye contact. The sort of way two sad puppies in a dire situation pity each other, as she stows her luggage and sits down much in the same way I had earlier. Canadian Bacon starts to notice the situation, as her doors are now closed. And Seat G and I are as reasonably comfortable as we can be, with this lady the size of the province of Alberta in between us. "Hey guys, can you not infringe on my space?" Canadian Bacon shoots dirty looks at me and Seat G. We silently exchange eye rolls, as only edgy American teenagers can. "Ni me wanti ba?" Which translates to, "You don't have any issues, yeah?" asks my mother. She knows the answer, but I refuse to say it. We both know this is a long 14 hours. Flight attendant is making pre-flight checks on us, noticing Canadian Bacon having trouble with her seatbelt. Says something in French, probably along the lines of, "Would you like another seatbelt extender?" But in a show of stubbornness that would remain throughout the flight, a quick "non" is given in what can only be described as a mix between Quebecois French and the effort-filled grunt of an orc. Very well then. The plane is backing out of the gate, Canadian Bacon still struggling with her seatbelt. Flight attendant is back and quietly asks Canadian Bacon if she would like to move to the empty row of seats in the back to fit better. And she immediately causes a small scene, like, "You're fat-shaming me! I can fit, I swear!" Now, Seat G and I are all caught up in this, and honestly, I would not have minded if Canadian Bacon was moved. More legroom, no weird fat humps pushing into me, and the ability to start a conversation. But alas, that did not happen, and the seatbelt was wrestled on with great effort. As we take off, the plane hits turbulence, and not an insignificant portion of Canadian Bacon's shoulder, lands on me, once again disturbing my show. Can a man not watch a car show and expect not to be interrupted by sweaty meat landing on his body? The plane banks the other direction and gravity does its work of unhamming me, but Seat G is not so lucky. Canadian Bacon perks up. "Sorry, lots of turbulence, Yes, it was a very long flight indeed. Hour 4, approximately 2 hours after the first meal, in which Canadian Bacon requested triple portion once everyone had gotten one. She opens her purse thing, whatever, and produces a family-size bag of chips. I'm here trying to watch James May do exactly the speed limit, and all of a sudden, a dusting of Cool Ranch Dorito shards fall onto me. In the span of 20 minutes, Canadian Bacon has demolished most of this poor bag of Doritos while watching some sappy romance movie on the TV, of course. Now, Air Canada leaves bags of extra snacks and stuff in the back near the bathrooms, and you can just grab them if you want. Canadian Bacon knows this, evidently, and so, in the middle of watching Jeremy Clarkson ramble on about a Land Rover, she taps a greasy ham fist on me. "Let me out," she says, as if I had a choice. Seat G is watching some sort of movie, and when Canadian Bacon gets up, her cheek brushes against the leftmost third of her screen, as well as most of mine. Alcohol pad time! The 20 minutes that Canadian Bacon was in the bathroom and presumably trying to get out were absolute bliss. I almost forgot through half an episode of Grand Tour before choosing Beggar came lumbering back. It was at this point that the plane's undercarriage, which had been weakened by years of Canadian snow and people walking about, caved in, swallowing the bacon and spewing her into the Canadian tundra. Almost as if nature was saying, "Pigs can't fly! I shall reclaim you by the arcane law of maple syrup and poutine!" Or so I wish. It was at this point that sleep overtook me, and unfortunately, that too was ruined by Canadian Bacon tapping me on the shoulder once again to go use the bathroom. I've become fed up at this point and begin to stroll around the plane. My legs are hurting too. I notice Seat G and we strike up conversation complaining about the bacon. The rest of the 10 hours progressed rather similarly. There was much complaining on the parts of myself and Seat G about the amount of Dorito dust that had settled in our row. And Canadian Bacon continued to eat. Literally, why don't people buy 2 seats if they are wider than 18 inches? Finn. Okay, first off, Redditor OP guy person. You are a good writer. That was an absolute joy to read. That was really funny. Now I wonder, are they still 15? Because this was really well written for a 15-year-old. And trust me, you can tell when it's written by a 15-year-old. It's usually very obvious. But this is giving me some like college writer vibes. This guy's good. Funny. Also, if you all have Amazon Prime, Grand Tour is a really good show. I'm just saying, it's really fun. And I know what you're thinking. That's a car show. I don't like cars. And guess what? I'm not a car dude either. I like the show though, because it's funny and they do a lot of cool stuff as well as drive really cool cars, and it's gotten me interested in cars to the point where I'm like considering doing things to my E-Class to make it look cooler. But anyways, that was a really good story. Very creative word usage and stuff. For instance, calling her Canadian Bacon instead of ham. Because guess what? Canadian Bacon is ham. It's genius! Also, bro, I'm hoping that Seat G sees this and then she hits you up and she's like, yo, that's it. Alright, this story's called Vega versus the Future Ham Planet. There's me, Vega, 22 female at the time, 115 pounds soaking wet. That's inappropriate. 5'4". Future Ham Planet, 19 female at the time, 200 pounds completely dry, 4'11". Farmer friend. 22 female at the time. That is all that is really relevant. Disclaimer, it has been years since this happened and I am sticking to reality as best my memory remembers the conversations. Backstory. At the time that I came across the privilege of living with Future Ham Planet, I had just broken up with an ex and needed him out of the 2-bedroom apartment ASAP due to his increasingly creepy behavior. The second I felt the need to go get a door stopper to lock my bedroom door with when I slept, I knew he had to go, and fast. Fortunately, he was out within 3 days of me telling him to go. Unfortunately, being a poor college kid, I needed a roommate to help with the rent and the bills. Insert a desperate attempt to quickly secure a new roommate. Future Ham's introduction. After some prodding around, Future Friend told me her sister also needed a new place to live ASAP. Yeah, I thought, a new roommate, who is a relative of a person I am good friends with a family to support her, so there were no worries on whether her side rent would be paid or not. We agreed to set up a time to meet and for me to show her the apartment. After learning a little more, Future Ham told me she had a really bad go with her former living situation. After just 2 months, she claimed that her old roommate was terrible. She was nasty to Future Ham and allegedly stole her food. I took pity on her, ignoring the obvious red flag that was the 3rd living situation that Future Ham had been in within 6 months. I cannot lie and say I was willing to let some red flags fly, as the rent was coming up and I did not have the funds to cover all of it alone. After all, the lease only had 9 months left. I could put up with about anything for 9 months. Before Future Ham moved in, her mother and Future Ham came to look at my apartment. I should have immediately kicked them out and rejected the applicant when the mother started asking me, "Do you do drugs? Do you bring many men over? Do you have loud sex on the weekends?" While future Ham said literally nothing to me the entire time and just glared in my direction. She did not even introduce herself. Former friend tried to explain future Ham's strange behavior by saying she was nervous and socially awkward. I decided to brush off the strange interaction and proceeded to let her move in. Future Ham moves in. A few days later, future Ham moves into the apartment. And by move in, I mean her mother, father, and former friend moved everything while future Ham sat on my couch playing on her phone. She did not even help hang up clothes or arrange her belongings once the furniture was in. She had still not addressed me. Her things included most of what would be appropriate in a 5-year-old girl's room. Little butterfly bedspread for her twin mattress, light pink furniture, a teddy bear. Her clothing solely consisted of t-shirts and worn cotton leggings. They brought no kitchenware, no cleaning supplies, and no food for future Ham. As soon as they leave, future Ham goes into her room and shuts the door. She remains there for 4 days, or so I think. 4 days later. As the days pass, I notice food go missing, but do not feel like having my first interaction with my new roommate being me accusing her of stealing my food. Her dishes pile up in the sink. Again, I want to start off on a good foot with this strange little girl, so I do them without making a fuss. Future Ham comes out and addresses me for the first time ever while I was cooking in the kitchen. She smiles and I relax. Thank God, I think. Maybe she was nervous and is actually a nice girl.
How are you so skinny? Like, you make me feel so weird. I am so fat.
What? I'm not sure.
I mean, I am so fat and ugly and you are so skinny. What do you eat?
Feeling extremely uncomfortable at these sudden weird statements and totally unsure of how to respond politely. Tonight I'm making do not remember, explains in vague detail what it is.
You are so lucky you have time to cook. I am so busy with school, I do not have time. In fact, I hardly ever eat. I have no idea why you are skinnier than me. My thyroid just makes it impossible to lose weight. It's not fair.
Future Ham looks at me, her eyes dripping with the hope that I will reaffirm her fat logic. I make some sort of sympathetic face, but turn around to resume my cooking. Future Ham then launches into a long-winded, very detailed description of numerous health problems she faces and how it makes it impossible to lose weight. I finish cooking while letting Future Ham hum away at her bizarrely personal stories in the background, making enough ohs and uh-huhs and "oh, I'm sorry, that sucks," as not to be rude. Future Ham, do you want any whatever I just made?
No, thank you. I'm not eating this week. I have anorexia and sometimes bulimia, but only if I'm really bad.
She looks up at me sheepishly. I stare at her for a second to make sure I heard that correctly. This girl is almost as wide as she is short. There is no way she is not consuming at least 3,000 calories a day. Oh, okay. Well, if you change your mind, there'll be leftovers. Feel free to help yourself. I retreat to my room to digest whatever the hell just happened and eat in peace. After all, this was my legit first conversation with Future Ham. I texted former friend to ask her what the hell happened. She replies saying her sister is full of crap and does stuff for attention. The next morning, all the leftovers are gone. I do not see Future Ham for another several days. Food continues to disappear, although she did go shopping, so at least some of it was her own. Over the course of the next several months, I realize that this is not even close to the weirdest interaction I have with Future Ham. And each interaction is weirder than the next, or last. Because if you say it like that, then it progressively gets less weird, which is a good thing. This type of stuff is why I never want to have a roommate, because all they do is lie and steal and then be nasty. Like, I've heard so many horror stories of bad roommates that, oh my god. However, if you're cool, funny, and like, you know, we can hang out, and you've got cash for your part of the rent, then like, yeah, you'd be cool, but how rare is that? Also, do not just tell people you just met all the bad things in your life and how bad your life is and how fat you are and how much you hate it and how, You're making people uncomfortable. And former friend, you're a big ol' hoe for making your friend put up with your sister and her many issues, without at least some warning first. Alright, this story's called, My Doctor Was Surprised I'm Not Obese. I've struggled with my weight for around 8 years. I always worked out and ate normal, not super healthy and not super unhealthy, but for the amount I work out, 4 to 6 hours a week, I'm not skinny. I'm quite fit, and I have a lot of muscle and the Marilyn Monroe body to go with it. Flat tummy, hips, and breast. It's not a bad body by far, but for the amount of work I put into it, it wasn't that great either. I never wanted to complain because I really dislike people that say they can't lose weight because of insert random excuse. Last week, my doctor found out that my thyroid malfunctions. It causes weight gain and inability to lose weight if you don't put work into it. My doctor looked at my charts and was incredibly surprised I wasn't obese. He looked at me and said it must have been hard to be able to maintain a normal body size for me. He was extremely impressed that I managed to keep my weight in a normal range this entire time. So for all the people out there that say they can't lose weight because of an illness, shut up! It's doable. Get your medication, work out, eat normal, and you're gonna be okay. Don't use your body as an excuse to be miserable. It really is not. Well, this is right and wrong, and I'm no medical professional, I'm no dietitian, I'm no nutritionist. In case you didn't know, having an unhealthy lifestyle, surprisingly, not really, feeds having an unhealthy lifestyle. Mark Twain once said, quitting cigarettes is really easy. I've done it thousands of times, or something like that. Same principle goes with, developing a healthy lifestyle. It's really easy to start with one, however, it's not easy to maintain. You're eventually gonna wanna slip back into the comfort of cupcakes and cookies and chicharrones. But that does not mean you give up. OP here is right. With enough hard work, pretty much anything is possible, including being healthy, okay? If you're starting to see yourself slip, look at a picture of yourself from back when you were hot and sexy, okay? Look at your collarbones and your angular face, just back when you were a sexy master of athleticism, or just less fat. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.